What do we want? Extended deadlines for procrastinators. When do we want it? Later. If it fits! We have not shot one frame of Duppet yet. John is out of town this week, and since he is in every single scene, diva, we can't actually start shooting until September 17th. So we have from the 17th to the 22nd to shoot 15 pages with a puppet, and then we have from the 23rd to the 29th to complete post-production. And that's okay, because we can do it! Freeze frame. I love deadlines. I've learned to like deadlines. I need deadlines. I wouldn't describe myself as a procrastinator. Others would absolutely describe me that way. Mom. But most of what looks like procrastination is really just the issues I have with starting something new, which I talked about last week, and not having enough accountability when it comes to deadlines. There is always a better idea. There is always something that you could fix. You could be working on the same project or piece indefinitely, and that's why it is so important to have some restrictions like a deadline. Making 12 short films in 12 months isn't the best way to make films. Filmmaking is incredibly labor intensive and slow moving, but this whole project is designed to be an overcorrection. Hyper restrictions on time, budget, gear, trying to force myself into a sort of flow state of decision making and problem solving so that I can really push myself to the limits of my abilities, and then hopefully come out on the other side of them better than I was before. And speaking of restrictions, we're adding more next month. Obviously, since we're on such a time crunch for these shorts, we've already started working on our script for the October short. And since it's October, we decided that we wanted to make it horror, scary. We want to make it scary. We decided that we're going to enter the Light This Location contest.
Submit one film in one location with one secret word. Keep it under 5 minutes. Include one behind-the-scenes video and one lighting floor plan.
It's a very cool contest where you make a 5-minute short film that has to take place in one single location. And just deciding that we want to submit to this contest and having those restrictions on our next short, it's already got us in a really good place thinking about what we're going to do next. And it's because of the restrictions. First, it narrowed our focus and provided motivation. The first thing we did when we decided that we wanted to enter this contest was we start to rattle off specific locations that we had access to. Specific locations. So instead of talking about the woods or attics or basements, really generic, scary things. Since location was going to be so important, it got us thinking about it in a really practical way. And it's only helping us get to a clearer, more engaging story faster. And the second thing it did, it got us away from the same ideas that we always fall back on. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I know for myself, a completely blank page is not my friend, and I end up just retreading the same ideas that I always cycle through. But having to shape and adjust things around pre-existing boundaries really helps me go in new directions. It helps me see different pieces of the puzzle. It doesn't help me come up with interesting metaphors. And then we come back to deadlines, which I think are the most difficult restrictions to navigate. We all know that deadlines are an important part of being successful because we all know that to be successful, one must get things done, tangible things done. And so you might ask, Chris, what? How are you holding yourself accountable for all these arbitrary deadlines you've created? Well, I'm so glad you asked because that's what the rest of this video is about. Wink. I'm really just doing two really important things differently on this project. I got other people involved. You might already know this, but I've assembled a group of people. We call ourselves the Complete Unknowns, and we have a podcast. You should go check it out. Links in the things. Links everywhere. There's just links. Everywhere there's links. Sausages in Zelda games. I got really lucky because I happened to get a group of super talented, super passionate artists who were totally excited and game for the idea that I presented to them. It actually makes it harder when you feels like you're forcing people. But the fear that I will let them down or that I will disappoint people is so strong. Not to mention the fact that it just lightens the load. Being able to just bounce ideas off of people and not having to do all the grunt work of making a film by myself. And two, I'm setting public expectations. That's what I'm doing right now. I keep saying that Duppet will premiere September 30th, which it will. And so anyone out there watching this is going to be expecting to see Duppet on September 30th. Saying all this out loud right now makes me just think that maybe I have a crippling fear of letting people down. Anyway, I told the world what I'm doing, and accountability comes along with that. I'm not saying that once you tell the world something, you have to follow through with it. I think it takes a lot of strength to honestly and sincerely change your mind. But the difference here is that now I can't just let things fizzle. I get it, we're artists and we need our time to create and to torture ourselves with our never-ending quest for perfection. We need the freedom to experiment with the infinite boundaries of our work. But there's absolutely something to be said for imposing a certain amount of restrictions on yourself and your work and holding yourself accountable to them. And that is it for this week. If you found this useful, hit the like button. Or if you just want to follow along with my journey to a feature film, subscribe to the channel. This past week on the Complete Unknowns podcast, we did a Fantasy Filmmaker, where we got a bunch of categories, including Best Actor, Supporting Actors, Director, Cinematographer, Composer, and we drafted it like we would in a NFL fantasy draft. And so now each of us has our own production team and cast, and we're leaving it up to the people to vote on what movie they would want to see the most. And then we're going to take the winning team and use it as inspiration to create one of our short films this year. And we'll be shooting our first 4 pages of Duppet on Tuesday, September 17th. So get excited. I know I am, and I'll see you next week.